America is starting to crack in the most ordinary place imaginable, the dinner table. By 2025, food prices haven't simply increased. They have surged by nearly 27%, while paychecks barely moved, rising just 4% over the same period. For millions of families, that gap has turned everyday meals into a financial battlefield. Households are now spending more than $2,200 every single month just to eat. And even then, many are ending their days still hungry. Credit cards are maxed out, savings accounts have been drained, and with every swipe at the grocery checkout, something else quietly disappears: personal dignity. Across the country, parents are skipping meals so their children don't have to. At work, employees pretend everything is fine, hiding their hunger during lunch breaks as if it were something shameful. This is no longer just inflation, it's a slow-motion collapse, carefully disguised as normal life. The Great Depression is no longer confined to history books or black and white photographs. It has quietly returned, embedding itself within the modern middle class, surviving behind credit limits, digital payments, and fluorescent-lit grocery aisles. There are no breadlines, no headlines screaming disaster, just millions of silent compromises happening behind closed doors. And nowhere is this more visible, or more unsettling, than in Washington State. Number 5. Washington. In Washington State, the grocery store has quietly become ground zero for economic stress. This is the same place that launched Amazon's trillion-dollar dominance, normalized $6 coffee, and symbolized innovation and upward mobility. Yet beneath that polished surface lies a growing reality that's impossible to ignore. The middle class here is struggling just to eat well. Washington isn't collapsing loudly. It's replaying a modern, nearly invisible version of the Great Depression, one where hunger hides behind credit cards and the constant beep of self-checkout machines. Families who once shopped without hesitation now pause in every aisle doing mental math, weighing whether buying milk today means skipping breakfast tomorrow. In 2019, the typical household spent about $700 a month on groceries. By 2025, that number has climbed past $200 for a family of 4, a nearly 70% increase in just 6 years. Eggs now approach $5 a carton. Bread averages over $4. Chicken, once under $2 a pound, regularly sells for $4.50 or more. Even reaching the store has become a budget decision, with gas prices around Seattle often exceeding $5 a gallon. Meanwhile, wages have barely moved. A median household income of $94,000 sounds comfortable on paper, but once taxes, $10,500 in rent, $400 in utilities, insurance, transportation, and child-related costs are paid, many families are left with less than $100 to cover an entire week of food. Parents who once packed lunches with fruit, snacks, and variety now stretch bulk instant noodles as far as possible. In eastern Washington, food banks report a 40% increase in visitors compared to pre-pandemic levels, and many of those waiting in line work full-time. A Boeing technician earning $35 an hour now stands beside a teacher and a nurse, all living on the edge of hunger in one of the wealthiest states in the country. Grocery shelves remain full, glowing with organic produce and premium seafood, but the food is simply unaffordable. Surveys show 1 in 3 Washington households now uses credit cards to buy basic groceries, paying nearly $90 a month in interest just to eat. This isn't living. It's survival, from one balance to the next. Behind billion-dollar skylines and delivery trucks filled with food, Washington's middle class is quietly fighting to preserve dignity in the face of hunger. Mississippi has long carried the label of America's poorest state, but by 2025, that label has taken on a far more disturbing meaning. The middle class here isn't just struggling, it's going hungry. This isn't the kind of hunger captured in history books or black and white images of soup lines. It's quieter than that, more invisible, showing up through constant compromise, endless calculations, and a fatigue that never seems to lift. Across the state, teachers, factory workers, and nurses stand at checkout counters counting dollars instead of items, realizing a single week of groceries can now cost more than 2 full days of wages. What makes this collapse so devastating is who it's affecting. These aren't the unemployed. These aren't households living on assistance. They are full-time workers who wake before sunrise, endure 10-hour shifts, and still come home to half-empty refrigerators. The average household income in Mississippi sits around $54,000 a year, but that number no longer reflects real life. Before the pandemic, groceries averaged about $600 a month. By 2025, they exceed $1,000, swallowing nearly a quarter of take-home pay. Eggs that once sold for $1.29 now push $4.80. Milk has climbed past $6 a gallon. Ground beef, once a reliable budget staple, can reach $6.50 per pound. For families with 2 or 3 children, the math collapses completely. A mother in Jackson earning $20 an hour recently explained that she now spends close to $250 every week just to feed her family of 4. No dining out, no treats, no convenience foods, just rice, bread, vegetables, and milk. At the same time, the myth of Southern affordability has quietly died. Rent in cities like Gulfport and Hattiesburg has jumped nearly 38% since 2020. Utility bills have doubled. Once housing, fuel, and childcare are paid, most families are left with only a few $100s, and grocery bills burn through that in days. As a result, many households rely on credit cards just to eat, creating what economists now call hunger debt. Borrowing not to get ahead, but simply to survive. Food banks across Mississippi are overwhelmed. Before 2020, they primarily served the unemployed or extremely low-income residents. Now, 1 in 4 visitors has a full-time job. Teachers arrive after class ends. Warehouse workers come before dawn. Nurses stop in after overnight shifts. Pride has been stripped away. What remains is survival. Families replace chicken with beans, fresh milk with powdered substitutes, and produce with canned goods designed to last longer, not nourish better. The bitter irony is impossible to ignore. Mississippi produces massive amounts of food, yet many of the people living closest to those fields can't afford the food they help create. What's happening here isn't just financial strain. It's a slow erasure of the middle class, unfolding quietly, one empty plate at a time. Nevada has always sold a fantasy. Neon lights slice through the desert night, casinos glow without rest, and billion-dollar resorts promise endless indulgence. But beneath that glow is a reality most visitors never see. The middle class here is struggling to afford food. For decades, Nevada, especially Las Vegas, stood as a symbol of opportunity. Service jobs were steady, tips filled the gaps, and living costs felt manageable. Now the lights still shine, but they cast long shadows over a growing hunger crisis. The servers handling high roller bets, the housekeepers cleaning luxury suites, the clerks scanning overpriced groceries, many are skipping meals, stretching leftovers, and counting the days until the next paycheck. By 2025, Nevada's middle class is facing a collapse that rarely makes headlines. The median household income hovers near $67,000, but that figure has lost meaning as food prices rise more than 30% faster than wages, erasing any sense of progress. Federal data shows the average grocery bill in Las Vegas jumped from about $700 a month in 2020 to nearly $1,050 by 2025. Staples that once felt basic now feel out of reach. Eggs around 5 or 50 cents a dozen, milk averaging $6.30 a gallon, and even rice and beans, once the cheapest fallback, have doubled in price. A mother in Henderson put it plainly, "I used to feed my family on $150 a week. Now it's over $300 and we're eating less." The casino-driven economy that once lifted workers has become a liability. Tip-based incomes have shrunk as tourists cut back, union agreements haven't caught up, and pandemic aftershocks still linger. Housing has made everything worse. Rent in Las Vegas is up more than 45% since 2019. Gas remains high and healthcare premiums keep climbing. A 2-income household earning $80,000 may look secure, but after taxes, rent, car payments, and insurance, many are left with barely $400 a month for food, a sum that disappears quickly when ground beef costs $7 a pound. The result is a hidden hunger crisis inside a state built on luxury. Food banks across Nevada report a 50% increase in working-class families seeking help since 2022. 1 in 3 middle-class Nevadans now admits to skipping meals regularly to save money, often relying on high-interest credit cards just to keep refrigerators stocked. The psychological toll is heavy. People hide hardship in a place built on excess, taking smaller portions so children won't notice, passing on fresh produce because $2 for an apple feels indulgent. Nevada may look vibrant, but behind every marquee is a household eating less, saving nothing, and slowly losing hope. The Great Depression isn't history here. It's creeping back beneath the neon glow, one empty dinner plate at a time. Texas once stood as a promise, a place where hard work paid off, homes felt attainable, and weekends meant family barbecues instead of financial stress. But by 2025, that promise has quietly soured. The very middle-class families who built Texas, from oil fields to tech corridors, are now struggling to afford the most basic necessity of all: food. Grocery bills are rising at a pace families can't outrun, even in a state that feeds the nation with cattle, crops, and energy. In 2019, the average Texas household spent roughly $680 a month on groceries. Today, that same bill has climbed past $1,150, turning what once felt like mild inflation into a financial gut punch. Eggs sell near $4.90 a dozen. Milk approaches $6 a gallon. Chicken that once cost $2.20 a pound now runs $5.50 or more. Even staples like rice and bread keep inching upward. Families who once filled carts without hesitation now move slowly through aisles, buying less meat, skipping snacks, and replacing fresh produce with canned alternatives that last longer. The irony is hard to ignore. Texas leads the nation in agriculture and energy production, yet its middle class is being crushed by rising costs and shrinking margins. A median household income of $73,000 sounds respectable, but once taxes are taken out and $2,000 in rent, $500 in utilities, insurance, healthcare, and fuel are paid, there's almost nothing left. In cities like Houston and Dallas, families of four report spending nearly one-third of their income just to stay fed. A father in San Antonio put it bluntly, "We don't buy anything extra anymore. No snacks, no takeout, just the basics, and even that doesn't stretch far enough." Food banks across the state are buckling. The Houston Food Bank reports a 45% increase in demand from working families since 2022. These aren't people without jobs. They're nurses, teachers, factory employees, and delivery drivers, many arriving still in uniform. Grocery chains see fewer items per cart but higher totals at checkout. People pay more and walk away with less. Children are feeling the impact too. School lunch debt across Texas has surpassed $100 million statewide, with teachers quietly covering meals so students don't go hungry. This isn't just an economic breakdown, it's a moral one. Texas has always championed independence and opportunity, but what does freedom mean when a paycheck can't cover food for your family? The tragedy doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up in half-filled carts, thinner grocery bags, and parents insisting they're not hungry so their children can eat a little more. The Great Depression once meant bread lines. Today, it's hidden in digital payments and maxed-out cards. Texas isn't thriving. It's surviving, one receipt at a time. California was once the ultimate promise. Golden coastlines, year-round sunshine, booming industries, and the belief that hard work guaranteed a good life. But by 2025, that promise is fractured. Behind palm trees and luxury electric cars, millions of middle-class Californians are living one grocery run away from financial disaster. This is the state that feeds much of the country through vast farms and distribution networks. Yet teachers, nurses, and even tech workers are struggling to afford food at their own tables. The numbers tell a stark story. In 2019, the average household spent about $750 a month on groceries. Today, that same expense ranges from $1,400 to $1,600 depending on location. In San Francisco, milk pushes $7 a gallon. Eggs reach $6.50 a dozen. Chicken that once sold for under $3 a pound now sits near $7. A grocery bag that used to total $60 can ring up at $120 or more, forcing families to put items back before reaching the register. Meanwhile, the state's median household income, around $91,500, barely keeps pace with reality. When rent absorbs $3,000 a month and taxes take a heavy share of what remains, the math stops working. California's middle class hasn't vanished. It's been quietly reclassified as the working poor. Teachers in Los Angeles, engineers in San Jose, and nurses in Sacramento are skipping meals just to cover rent. Surveys now show nearly 40% of middle-income Californians experiencing food insecurity, levels once associated only with the poorest communities. In Los Angeles County alone, over 2 million residents rely on food banks every month, many employed full-time. Inflation has turned dignity into debt, and debt into hunger. Even within what would rank as the world's fifth largest economy, food has become a luxury. The contradiction is impossible to ignore. California grows strawberries, almonds, avocados, and lettuce for the nation, yet locally grown produce can cost more here than thousands of miles away. An avocado grown nearby can sell for $2.50, while major grocery chains post record profits. This isn't a lack of food, it's a failure of fairness. Families ration milk, trade fresh produce for canned substitutes, and treat meat as an occasional purchase. Healthy eating has shifted from a basic expectation to a privilege. As one mother in Oakland put it, "I used to shop for what we enjoyed. Now I shop for what keeps us alive." Food prices in California have risen 26% since 2021, nearly 3 times faster than income growth. The toll is psychological as much as physical. Constant anxiety, daily price tracking, and the fear that one flat tire or medical bill could mean skipping groceries for the week. For many Californians, the American dream has narrowed to a single hope: making it through another month without maxing out a credit card. What's unfolding across America isn't a temporary squeeze or a passing economic phase. It's a structural shift that has quietly reshaped daily life for millions of middle-class families. In state after state, Washington, Mississippi, Nevada, Texas, California, the pattern is the same. Wages trail far behind prices. Grocery bills consume what little margin remains. Credit cards fill the gap until they can't. And hunger, once associated with unemployment or extreme poverty, now lives inside households that look stable from the outside. There are no breadlines stretching down city blocks, no dramatic collapse broadcast on nightly news. Instead, the crisis hides in ordinary moments: parents claiming they're not hungry, workers avoiding lunch, families standing still in grocery aisles as totals climb beyond reach. The shelves are full, the food exists, it's just become unaffordable. That's what makes this moment so unsettling. The Great Depression hasn't returned with the imagery people expect. It's arrived disguised as modern life, wrapped in self-checkout screens, digital payments, and interest charges, paid for one receipt at a time. The middle class isn't failing loudly. It's being slowly exhausted, forced to survive rather than live, while dignity erodes in silence. This isn't just an economic warning, it's a moral one. When the people who educate children, staff hospitals, clean hotel rooms, build infrastructure, and keep entire states running can no longer afford to eat properly, something fundamental has broken. The question is no longer whether this crisis is real. It's how long it can continue before the silence finally breaks. This story doesn't end with a crash or a single breaking moment. It ends quietly, the way it began. With a receipt. With a total that's higher than expected. With a parent pausing at the register deciding what has to go back. Across America, millions of families are making those choices every week, cutting portions, skipping meals, and telling themselves it's temporary, just one more tough month. But the months keep coming, and the pressure keeps building. The Great Depression once announced itself with breadlines and headlines. This one hides behind grocery loyalty cards, self-checkout screens, and credit limits. It doesn't look like failure. It looks like normal life, stretched thin. If the middle class can no longer afford food in a nation overflowing with it, then the question isn't whether something is wrong. It's how long this can be ignored. Because when survival replaces stability and hunger becomes routine, the cost isn't just economic, it's human. And it's being paid, one grocery run at a time. If this story reflects what you're seeing or living through, share it. Leave a comment below. What's changed in your grocery bill, and how are you coping? And if you want to understand where this leads next, subscribe. The silence won't last forever.